It's even a wee bit dark up in here. We live and it's lit. I'm in relax mode today. I figured I would just come and sit and we'll try to not halfway. I mean, obviously if people want to engage in the chat, if they join the show, we'll go all the way into it. But we're kind of my plan was to continue last night's conversation, mainly because Mark was over here last night. Sorry, I'm looking at the computer. I need to be looking over here. What camera? Camera 3, camera 4, camera 2. There is no camera 2. All right. So Mark and I were in a conversation last night. And it kind of just started with me on the show talking, but she was in the room. So obviously we're going back and forth. Nothing bad, obviously. Both of us, I feel, were making great points. And some of the topic of conversation was over this pitching coach who's now on leave because he sent lewd messages to this female. And obviously, if you've never been on this show before, the Minkle Jackson Show presents Lunchtime TV. Thank you for joining me. Like and subscribe, do all the things. But if you've never been, seen this show or heard of it, whatever the case may be, I talk about dicey stuff on here only because, I feel like we got to talk about it. So I just genuinely ask questions and I try to preface everything. A lot of my questions and concerns and all that, I'm operating on limited knowledge because a lot of these situations I don't personally always have experience in. So sometimes I'm just commenting because I genuinely want to know, what are people thinking? And so obviously my thoughts last night, I was basically wondering kind of like what type of tone are we setting if now because obviously we want to hear every allegation, every complaint, every concern, because we don't want to dismiss anybody. And I hope my comments last night didn't come off as if we should dismiss victims or they should be on some sort of time limit to let people know when these things happen, because that's not it at all. But I'm wondering what type of culture are we creating if now that because we should review every allegation, if now that they're starting to pop up where it's like somebody sent me some pictures, now they're getting in trouble. And so I brought up the point of, why doesn't the person just block the person when they send the photos? And I know how that can kind of sound. Basically I'm saying I'm dismissing what they're going through or what this young lady or young ladies have, presented to everyone about this gentleman. We're not trying to let him off the hook or anything like that. But I feel like just knowing what I know now about the situation, that it's just nasty pics or something, lewd messages to the phone. Obviously, if somebody keep going after you, tell them no, it's harassment. But Buddy has come out and said on his end, his stance is this. He admitted to doing it, but said that it was all consensual. Now, I have personally not heard anything from the other side of it. So we're still talking about this, operating on limited information. But from what I did know, it got me thinking, just first initial reaction. Why not just block that shit? Because I only say it like this. I brought up the point last night about how people go on Tinder and other little dating apps like that. And we've kind of created a culture where that's kind of how you shoot your shot with people. Here is me. Here's my personality. Here's the goods. If you like what you see, swipe this way or like and subscribe. All the things. That's kind of what we do because people are just on the internet. The way you meet people, the way you talk to people is all via the internet or your text messaging or whatever. Not a lot of it is very personal anymore. You're not just getting a number, calling a person, asking them out on a date, and then meeting them at the diner or going to get ice cream. That's not the case anymore. So based on that and knowing that this is kind of how a lot of people shoot their shot, whether it be inappropriate or not, I'm not saying it's either way. Do I think if you're on an app seriously trying to date somebody, should you lead with a photo like that? No, I feel like that's stupid. Not if you're really trying to set the tone for your relationship going forward. But if that's the tone that you're trying to set, then yeah, by all means, do what you got to do. Like if you know, listen, I'm only swiping on you because I'm trying to bump rump later. If you know that, do your thing. But also, people, you should understand that you have options in that moment. If somebody sends you something you don't like, you have the block button. And maybe I'm just really new to the block button. I just discovered this the last few weeks. So for me, this is like Christmas now. So that's the only reason why I made that comment. But obviously, talking to Mark gives me a different perspective. And we talked about a lot of things that I feel like both of us we're adults. We're not novices when it comes to this subject, because I feel like if you were somebody who has open conversations with people, the topic of abuse and things like that have come up before. We've talked about it on this show. I bring up many a time how, you think about how shitty it is. Think about if you are the victim, the surviving victim of any type of situation. You think of a case like that Brock Turner idiot getting caught in the wrong and then nothing happening. We obviously know that's the type of stuff that'll make people not want to say anything, because they know people aren't going to step up and do the right thing. These people aren't going to be punished for being scumbags, and then you as the victim, when you allege these things, and even when they are absolutely 100% true, the other people always find a way to try to make your life a living hell. So some of the stuff that we were talking about, we kept bringing it back to the fact that we're wondering, when you're in that state of mind, when you're having to think about all those thoughts, like which direction do you go, Like I feel like it might be tough for me. The more and more I thought about it, even after Mark left, and I was still thinking about it, damn, what do you do if you're in a situation like that? And I'm not talking about lewd photo. I just personally feel if only thing that's on the table on that is just these people were sending nasty photos to each other, and then after a while, Shorty was grossed out and then she didn't like it, whatever. I don't know if that's the situation, but I think in the scenario we were painting, it's we're not talking about that. We start transitioning into the serious stuff. That's what I'm talking about. So I feel like when something serious, something of that magnitude, abuse, a rape, a molestation, something like that happens to you, I just cannot fathom the amount of thoughts that must be going through a person's head, especially when it comes time to make a decision about how do you proceed. Do you say something? Do you not? What type of action do you take? And if you do, who do you trust? Do you trust the person that you're telling is going to give you the support you need in that moment? And are they going to believe you? Even when they have all the proof that they need, there's always a way that people on that other person's behalf will try to poke holes in the victim's story. It's a guarantee. So you're thinking about all these thoughts. People have to carry this stuff with them. So then when we ask ourselves, well, why don't they say something sooner? These are the reasons why. So I want to make it clear that that is something that is known on this show. I do fully understand that and comprehend that. I guess my thoughts are just more when I first see these situations, I'm always wondering, are people thinking this? Because I can't even tell you what I would do in that situation. Have no idea, because I've never been through it. What do you do? I don't have the slightest clue as to how I react if something of that magnitude would have happened to me. So anybody out there who is or has ever been a victim, if you feel comfortable, I would love to have you on here to share your story, or you can just call me. We don't have to be on here. Just provide me with some more insight. And I know plenty of people who have been in these situations. But again, we want to make sure that these people feel comfortable talking about these things, speaking about them, and then giving feedback. I genuinely want to know, in those moments, what were you thinking? Where did your mind go? And how do you process this stuff? What are ways in which you cope? And how do you move forward if your situation is where, again, the Brock Turner thing, where it's obvious that this stuff happened and then nothing was done? How does that make you feel about the rest of the world, about these infrastructures and the way we handle these cases? You just don't know. Everybody reacts different. Some people go into like crusader mode. Nothing wrong, like nothing bad about it. I'm just saying like they like it like fuels them where they're like, this won't ever happen to me or anybody else again. And then they're like turning into the Hulk, like kicking down doors, breaking barriers, and like really impacting change. But then you can also see the other end of the spectrum where it could just make a person go into the fetal position, and how people can freeze up and never want to speak again, never want to interact, never love the same. All of these things because their privacy and their space has been violated. So I say all that to say that, man, I fully do understand. Not maybe not fully. I can't say fully. I do understand and comprehend, and I do continue to educate myself on this because, again, not having ever been a victim of such thing, at least not to my knowledge, I don't currently know how any of this stuff is. You only can hear the stories and you see the pain in people's eyes, you know. So it's crazy, man. And like, and I think about even with this situation where just text messages, even if it's only that, you think about Buddy's job and the type of resources he has. And me and Mark were talking about this yesterday too. Is like think about the dilemma of like, what do I do knowing that I don't have the same amount of resources as the person who did harm to me, and knowing that because they have resources they can crush my voice. Like thinking about that, like that right there really does show how shitty a lot of our people are. But even then, if you have to go into that thought, it's like that could probably be so demoralizing, because then it could take all the hope out of it. Like, damn, look at the power and privilege that this person has. And then you think about this. If it's not real, then every time you find one that's not real, it make it harder for the real stories to actually get what they deserve, the attention that they deserve, the resolve that they deserve. It makes it harder for that to happen. And then more and more of these situations keep getting swept under the rug, man. It's crazy. So my apologies if on yesterday's show anything I said was offensive. It was not intended to be as such. I just was very like, look, if this is just text message, you should just block that shit, because I discovered the block button and now I think it's magical because it's just so simple if you have the contact saved. But to the best of my knowledge, most girls don't even be saving niggas' numbers. So I don't know, maybe. Who knows? Maybe that was one of those special cases, but I just feel like you should, if it's just text messages, just block that. I know some people are very persistent, but and then that's like that thing can snowball on you, because then you block them, and what if they crazy? And then they start trying, like, damn, man, the stuff shorties be going through. It's crazy. It took me 3 days. And I think it's worth it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been doing things in bits and pieces, man. I try to add more stuff to my day, like increasing my reading time. So I tried to be off my phone a lot more, you know, not as much on the internet. But, you know, it did take me 3 days to watch the latest episode of the Joe Budden podcast. And the show is still good. I'm someone who will get into a podcast and I'll listen to it really heavy for however long or as much content as I feel like absorbing from that person or persons. And then after a while, I'll take a break. And I love Joe. I love Maul. I love Parks. I love Roy, their whole crew. I think everything they do is dope. They are definitely an inspiration. I like their vibe. I hope to create something like that one day. And I've always been a fan of Joe. Even when he says stuff that I don't agree with, like, there's something to be respected about him and their show, because I don't feel like he really has much of a problem admitting when he's goofed something up, as long as you were like, look, man, you know, and if it can get through to him. I feel like that's most people. But I do admire that he can do that on the show, and like he doesn't, you know, shit keeps moving. You know what I'm saying? He's not holding on to stuff for too long. Excuse me. Very funny, very insightful. I learned a lot about Bitcoin from Joe Budden podcast. So shout out to Joe, man, helping me improve my knowledge about investing. They don't really talk about much. I just catch bits and pieces on every now and again when I watch their show. But you know, we all got to start somewhere. So if y'all know anything about Bitcoin, hit me up, man. I'm learning about that. I know I'm way behind. I'm always way behind. Because at first, when people go to take risk, I'm like, I'm not doing that. I got to see all of y'all try to jump in there and survive. Like, I got to see like a quick couple of thousand of y'all jump into this or jump off this bridge before I actually do it. It can't just be one or two people, because I'd be like, nah, that's not enough of a sample size for me. I need to see more data than that. But it actually was, I read up on it most of the day. It's pretty insightful. I feel like my money will start to go into the right place. So in the right hands. We'll see, or I'll lose everything. And then we just restart, because that's what life is about, man. You just restart sometimes. All right, man. My brother sent me something I wanted to read to y'all. I told him I was going to lead off the show with it, and then I went into that other conversation. But dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. I like that. James 1:2-4. Now, I'm not an overly religious person. I guess I consider myself spiritual, but I think it's good every now and again to read some of these verses, bro. It ain't hurting you to absorb the content. And if you're content, excuse me. And if you're able to take something away from it, like, why not, man? So yeah, I appreciate you, Douglas. Thank you for sending that to me. I hope anyone who was just listening to that, maybe that helps you in some way. You get some takeaway from that. Yeah, man. We're heading into the weekend, Friday night. I don't have a whole lot on the docket, man. We're just gonna do the show. Finna watch the Brooklyn Nets probably get smacked because they don't play no defense. I gotta talk about the Warriors last night. Did Kelly Oubre really have 40, or did I imagine that? Kelly had 40 last night, and Golden State put up 147 points. I know we don't really talk about sports much on this show, but it just was crazy to me because I feel like the week has been kind of a blur. And then I woke up this morning, I was like, I did see that right. This sorry team, because they have not been playing well, and their best players, some of their best players are injured. And so like they're always kind of in the game, but then they're getting beat by teams that they should easily be beating. And then it was kind of a shock to see that some of their role play, they had 7 players in double figures. If you know anything about basketball, you know that that's not an easy thing to do. 7 of your players, 10 points or more, that's crazy, bro. Game over. You can beat anybody like that. It doesn't matter how sorry your team might be. If you can get 7 of your guys to get 10 points or more, consider it game over. And then, like I said, you have 1 star or even a half of a star, somebody who can go get 20, game over. But I was very impressed, man. I think that some of these teams, man, and I kind of am bringing this up because I wanted to talk more about the fact that I noticed last night that my appreciation for Steph Curry as a leader grew when he did his post-game interview. And it was mainly because he talked about how he recognizes, and their team, as a team, they recognize that this is not the Warriors of old, but they still have that championship pedigree. They're motivated. They feel like they're connected. Chemistry is developing. And he didn't seem like he was rattled by the fact that they go out every night and then basically don't win a lot. But they're not the worst team in the league, which is nice because they have him and they got Draymond Green and a couple other. They got Kelly Oubre. Kelly can hoop. All right. I've been a fan of Kel's, but I just was shocked that he had 40 because he started off the season, boy, he couldn't throw the ball in the ocean. And now all of a sudden he's starting to pick it up. Can you imagine if Clay come back and then it's him and Kel's and Steph and Draymond, Wiseman? Y'all can leave Andrew Wiggins at home. But even still, there's out there getting buckets. But Steph as a leader, I was very impressed, man. So shout out to him. That's all I was going to say. This has been an easy show. I'm about to go, do what I do. Get ready for the weekend. But anyway, Twitch tomorrow. Starters on the Bench podcast. In the morning. I don't know. It'll be up sometime before about 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Sports, books, music, video games. We're going to get into it tomorrow, man. I'm going to see y'all tomorrow. If you join the stream, like I said, find me under Memecle Jackson, ENT. Like, subscribe, do all the stuff. I'm out of here.